What you're seeing right now is a tier list created by Pokécomic at the end of June showing off the best Japanese decks in the Black Gold and White Flare format. And if you unfocus your eyes a little, you'll see a reflection in your screen of someone who made a great decision today by subscribing to me. Unsurprisingly, a lot of older decks are still ruling the format, with the only newcomer being Zekrom EX with the Electric. Like always, I need to point out that Japan's format is different than ours because they have access to Psyduck, who prevents Pokemon like Dusclops and Dusknoir from blowing themselves up. We still have no idea exactly when Psyduck is getting an English release, but it's a safe bet it won't show up until at least Mega Evolution on September 25th. And yes, our first Mega Evolution set is just called Mega Evolution. Ironically, the deck to win Japan's biggest Black Gold and White Flare tournament didn't have any new cards from the dual sets. Instead, it was good old Raging Bolt with a Chien-Pao to bump your own Area 0 to remove liabilities, plus Iron Leaf ZX to one-shot any Charizard, Grimmsnarl, or Garchomp. And Raging Bolt is where we'll start this old decks with new cards video. Part of the reason why Raging Bolt won that massive tournament is because Day 1 was best of 1. While Day 2 was best of 3, you could change your deck. Still, Raging Bolt absolutely dominated. And because Latios EX exists, Raging Bolt doesn't need the new Air Balloon. So ultimately, the deck gets nothing from Black Gold or White Flare and doesn't need anything from Black Gold or White Flare. But if you haven't whacked off in a while, the only idea I have for you is Electric. This allows you to remove Teal Mask Ogerpon and Grass Energy altogether, leaving just Fighting and Lightning. Plus, you could use alternate attackers like Mew EX with Baby Bolt Snipe Attack able to deal more damage than ever before. Except as my favorite character in Harry Potter said, progress for progress's sake must be discouraged. So just because you can pair Electric with Raging Bolt doesn't necessarily mean you should, especially when Raging Belly Bolt exists. The next dominant Dragon deck is Dragapult, which gets very little aside from Air Balloon. The rule of Pinky Toe with Air Balloon is that if your deck used to have Rescue Board, now it has Air Balloon. Very few, if any, Pokemon in a Dragapult deck have a 2 retreat cost, but if your opponent tries to get cute with Gravity Gemstone, the Balloon can pop their dreams and still allow you to retreat. Otherwise, the only other new card to consider for Dragapult is Hilda. Kinda like Jacques and Brock before it, Hilda allows you to get an evolution Pokemon. The added benefit of Hilda is that you can also search your deck for any energy, be it basic or special. This opens up the possibility of playing Neo Upper Energy as your ace spec over something like Unfair Stamper Sparkling Crystal. And with Tool Scrapper getting reprinted in Black Gold and White Flare and Jamming Tower always being annoying, Neo Upper should overtake the Crystal. And even if you don't want to run Neo Upper Energy, Hilda can still find a Luminous for Dragapult or Munkidori plus either a Fire or a Psychic. You've probably heard me rag on these sets quite a bit over the last month and thought it was just classic Pilot complaining about Pokemon cards because that's all he ever does. And while it's true that I always look for a reason to rant about something, you can't argue that the sets aren't disappointing. Take Grimmsnarl for example. The only real change you need to make is swapping Rescue Board for Air Balloon if you played it and calling it a day. Air Balloon allows Grimmsnarl to retreat for free as well as Maractus if you're feeling spicy. Like the end of a shift in a shaft, it's a minor change, but it does make Grimmsnarl at least 0.69% better. If you were hoping to see Gardevoir EX here, well, unfortunately I need to put it in the upcoming new decks video to help flesh that one out. Because as I've said far too often, despite there being more than 170 cards in Black Gold and White Flare, only about 17 of them are actually playable. So let's move on like the world did after PewDiePie hit 100 million subscribers, shall we? Now here's where we start to see some notable changes. Of course, having a 2 retreat cost means Gholdengo is an Optimus Prime candidate for Air Balloon. This way you don't have to worry about finding a Metal Energy to attack with a naked Gholdengo they countercatch it up and can instead just retreat it. But the biggest addition is Genesect EX. Put it into play, now you can grab any 2 Metal Evolution Pokemon from deck every single turn. If you're ever attacking with Genesect, things have gone terribly wrong, but thanks to Air Balloon you can easily put it back on the bench if they try to gust it out and stall you. As an added bonus to Genesect's ability, Gholdengo can reliably run Scizor again as it's much easier to find, giving you a great single prize backup attacker. What I'll say about the 10th place Japanese Championships list is that they went a little overboard with balloons. You don't need 3, 2 is perfect. And they definitely high-rolled it on the supporter count, going with 4 Arven and 4 bosses, relying on a good start to get them through the entire game. This is the much safer version of Gholdengo you'll be playing once Black Gold and White Flare are out. Realistically though, Gholdengo is going to have to undergo a decent amount of testing to determine the perfect list. Do you want a 1-1 or a 2-2 Scizor line? Do you want Lavincia to bring back Lightning Energy or a Stadium harmful to your opponent like Team Rocket's Watchtower or Pokemon League HQ? While 4 Arven is a given in every list since you need to have that fast start with Buddy-Buddy Poffin, what should the count of bosses versus Iono versus Turo versus Judge be? Despite all this thinking and testing you'll have to do, Gholdengo's in a great spot heading into Worlds next month. The problem is that Gardevoir's in an even greater spot and could be a huge problem for the cheese string man. Skipping over Charizard because the only addition is Air Balloon and everyone's favorite Dart-type dragon keeps falling down the rankings with each set, we have Typhlosion. And it makes complete sense that the best single prize deck gets helped out by the best damage boosting card for single prize Pokemon. Attach Brave Bangle to a single prizer, now it deals 30 damage more to Pokemon EX. With 4 Ethan's Adventure in the discard pile plus 1 Victini in play, Typhlosion's now one-shotting Dragapult and Grimmsnarl regardless of whether you're tied, ahead, or behind on prizes. There's a few different ways to run Typhlosion, be it with your Cloak, Pidgeot, or the Dunsparce version you see on screen. Whichever you choose, the new list just removes Defiance Band in favor of Brave Bangle. Hilda's also there to get an Evolution Plus and Energy while under item lock. Similarly, Dipplin also benefits from Brave Bangle. With a full bench, Brave Bangle attached, and Festival Grounds in play, you're dealing 130 damage twice to Pokemon EX while hitting for a Grass Weakness. Plus, Air Balloon is a massive help as Thwackey has a 2 retreat cost. Unfortunately, while Dipplin's been slowly rising in Japan like me after Lopunny uses Sweet Kiss, we still don't have Psyduck. That'll probably arrive in September or November, meaning it won't exactly be a renaissance for the apple quite yet. If you're looking for other ideas on how to utilize Brave Bangle, Roaring Moon, Spidops, and Azumarill are just a few of the strong single prizers who are helped out by the damage boost. All you have to do with those lists is remove Defiance Band, add the Bangle, and you're done. I'll need someone else's feet to count the amount of times I've talked about Ho-Oh Armarouge in these Black, Gold, and White Flare preview videos. That's because it gets access to Reshiram EX and Prism Energy. As somewhat of a master at playing with my hot turkey, I know that Ho-Oh Armarouge struggles to take big one-hit KOs. Reshiram gives access to someone who can deal 280, 330, or even 380 damage towards the end of a game. Though you do have to discard an energy when using Blazing Burst, which kinda sucks. Then there's Prism Energy. Take out Luminous Energy, add in Prism Energy. Whereas Luminous Energy stops being a Rainbow Energy if 2 are attached to the same Pokemon, you can have 4 Prism Energy on 1 basic Pokemon and get all 4 Rainbow effects. Just be aware that if you ever attach Prism Energy to an Armarouge, you're required to concede in shame. There are so many different yet similar ways to build Ho-Oh Armarouge beginning on July 17th. So long as you start with those 2 Pokemon, add in 4 Prism Energy and a Reshiram, then you'll have the bones of a good deck. Or you can remove all the thinking and just copy and paste the list in the description, whichever's easier. Now, I know I pretty much ignored Charizard earlier, but Reshiram does help it, just not at this exact moment. Should Mega Venusaur EX become meta, Reshiram gives you an easy way to one-shot it. Plus, a lot of Megas will have more than 330 hit points, which is the number Charizard tops out at. So when Mega Evolution arrives on September 25th, don't forget about this guy. Additionally, you can play with your Chicken and run Reshiram with Blaziken. This pairing has been doing some things in Japan lately thanks to Blaziken's energy accelerating ability. Just be aware that every successful list I saw had Psyduck. So write a letter to the Pokemon Company in dripping red ink demanding that they give us this card so we can play low HP decks again without having to worry about Dusclops and Dusknoir ruining our lives. Now here's the portion of the video where I talk about the less competitive decks being helped out by Black, Gold, and White Flare cards. For a list barely seeing any updates to the existing ones you can find on Limitless, I won't put them in the description. After all, unlike Smash Bros. Ultimate, YouTube has a character limit. For an example of one of those decks, Haxorus helps Slowking. With basic Pokemon now having up to 280 hit points, and that could increase in the future, giving Slowking a way to one-shot them is paramount plus. Copy Act Blast, knock out any basic Pokemon that doesn't have a Mist Energy attached. Or if it's Team Rocket's Mewtwo that doesn't have Articuno in play. That'll be extremely powerful and potentially revive Slowking. But Poilet, I hear you say, why can't we just use the Brave Bangle to deal 280? Well, my attractive subscriber who likes every video, Bravery Charm exists, giving them 330 hit points. So while Brave Bangle is good in theory, potentially allowing Slowking to deal 280 when copying Conkeldurr, a single copy of Haxorus is much better. There's a reason why I'm excited for Ignition Energy, and it rhymes with Doug Trio. Up until now, you had to wait for your opponent to beat you off before you could get into their undersea tunnel. Thanks to Ignition Energy, which provides 3 colorless energy to evolution Pokemon, you can potentially mill them 4 times before they take a prize. I say 4 because you have to discard Ignition Energy at the end of your turn. The list definitely needs to undergo some testing and tinkering because I'm not sure Mew EX is worth the liability. But no matter what happens, Ignition Energy makes this old deck more playable. And just like meat, Mill's back on the menu. Same with Slacking EX, Porygon Z, and Meowscarada EX. However you were playing Slacking in the past, take out 4 of that useless old energy and add 4 Ignition Energy. You already have to discard the energy with Slacking's attack, so the negative of Ignition becomes a moot point. You'll still have to include Jet Energy and Boomerang Energy for when you run out of Ignition though. Elsewhere, Porygon is helped out by the fact that you can remove 4 Reversal and use 4 Ignition instead. Combo it with 4 Team Rocket's energy and it gets slightly more gooder. And finally, Meowscarada. When Double Turbo rotated earlier this year, Meowscarada disappeared. It's still not tier 1 or anything, but Ignition Energy allows you to conserve your Grass energy for the ability, which puts 3 damage counters on one of their bench Pokemon by discarding 1 Grass. Then Scratching Nails does 220 for that Ignition Energy, provided their active has a damage counter on it. Or how about Steven's Metagross EX? I banished most of its gameplay to the VOD channel because the card kinda sucks. But Cofagrigus could be its Dark Knight in shadowy armor. Metagross has 340 hit points. Slap a Hero's Cape on it, 340 becomes 440. Add in Granite Cave, now it's taking 30 less damage. Let Metagross take a hit, then fully heal it with Cofagrigus' elongating damage radius, which takes all damage counters from one of your bench Pokemon and moves them to any one of your opponent's Pokemon. We'll have to take a journey together to determine how many Switch cards are necessary in this deck. Cofagrigus can retreat for free thanks to Air Balloon, but Metagross will likely have the cape. You could always hard retreat it for 3 energy, but Surfer or a regular old Switch might be better. Ultimately, I am ready to be hurt by Steven Stone once again. Last and, well, actually kind of least, we have Conkeldurr. The old Timber has 80 hit points, putting it out of Poffin range. The Pokemon Company rectified their mistake and is giving us a 70 hit point Timber. While it's not as easy as swapping out Timber for Timber since you have to add Poffins and remove Precious Trolley, it's almost that easy. Just like Captain America Brave New World, I'm going to give you a post-credit scene so crazy you'd think it's my first ex-wife. While Dragapult was already mentioned earlier, I've got 2 wacky lists you can try. The first is with Archeops. I envision this more as a replacement for Dusknoir once Psyduck is out, as its ability is kinda nutso. Put Archeops in the active, then you can devolve any one of your opponent's Pokemon. Not just their active, anybody. You will have to run a couple more Switch cards plus fossils, but being able to devolve somebody during your turn, then Iono the evolution away is too fun to ignore. The list here runs Hilda plus Neo Upper, so you can attack with a naked Dragapult while under item lock. Just remember that Plume Fossil is an item, so you want to prioritize putting those down as quickly as possible. I think Briar is a fun inclusion as it allows you to devolve their active, play Briar, then take an extra prize card on a potentially weak Pokemon at the end of a game. Then we have Dragapult with Meloetta EX. Thanks to its D-Butt performance ability, Meloetta can attack turn 1 going first. I've been overly critical about this card mainly because it's trash. Yes, Meloetta allows you to use TM Evolution turn 1, and with most people choosing to go second, it can be strong. But as I pointed out repeatedly, in order for this combo to work, you'll need to put Squawkabilly and Latios into play, same with Townstore, and use Carmine, all for the chance to maybe get 2 Dracloak at the end of your first turn. Except now you have a Meloetta and Squawkabilly for your opponent to target, both of whom have abilities making them massive liabilities against Grimmsnarl. And it's not like Dragapult is struggling to win games in its current form. The damn thing's a freaking A-tier deck that wins tournaments. Anyways, to quickly wrap up this video, Air Balloon goes in pretty much every deck now, Brave Bango goes in every single prize deck now, and the only top deck that might improve in the rankings is Gholdengo, while everyone else simply gets slightly better. Which new cards will you be putting in your old decks? Let everyone know in the comments because I need some ideas for streams this month and I don't feel like thinking.